marathon tonight. I'm making carrot cake for a friend who ordered it. And we have a birthday party at work tomorrow, so I'm making chocolate cupcakes. Woohoo! And it's the Hershey's chocolate cake. And it's called Perfectly Chocolate Cake. So if y'all want the recipe, Hershey's is the easiest place to get it. They have a website, it's real convenient. I just printed it out because it's easier this way. So anyway, make sure you like and subscribe and share to your friends. And to start this recipe, we're going to put together the dry ingredients first. It calls for 2 cups of sugar. This one you mix all the dry together. So 2 cups of sugar. You can't beat a genuinely good chocolate cake.
Well, this is apparently perfectly chocolate cake.
Yeah. And you know what? It's one of their original recipes. I think it stems from like the 30s because I had a really old version of a Hershey's cookbook and it was in there. So it's tried and true. Why mess with a good thing? And then we need 1 3/4 cups of flour. I always like to stir up my flour to make sure it's not compacted. So that's 1 3/4. So that's with the flour. And then we're going to use cocoa. So in honor of the Hershey's recipe, we're using Baker's Corner from Aldi's. Prices are expensive. I'm sure y'all can understand that. Alright, so 3/4 cup of cocoa is what it calls for. Alright, now I'm wearing cocoa. Not only will I be sweet, I'll be chocolatey too. Alright. This has been sitting in the cabinet, so it's a little compacted, so gotta shake it up a little bit. Alright. And a little bit more from the fresh can I just opened. Ay, ay, ay. So, it's 3/4 cup of cocoa. Put that in there, because it's a very chocolatey chocolate cake. And then it calls for 1 1/2 teaspoons each of baking powder and baking soda. And this measuring spoon set has a 1/2 teaspoon measure, which is 1 1/2 teaspoons, because a tablespoon is 3 teaspoons. Baking a lot really helps with your math to keep your brain active. So again, if you all want to know where your day-to-day math comes in, cooking is one, and baking. So that is, oh man, my apron, I swear. I think it's tired, it keeps falling off. But at least it's not the only thing I'm wearing. Alright. Okay. Alright, you know what? I give up. It must be a design flaw because it ain't working for me tonight. Alright.
Figure it out later.
Yeah. 1 teaspoon of salt. So this way you all will know how to make a chocolate cake from scratch as opposed to opening a box and adding a couple eggs. There's a teaspoon of salt. And the best way to mix up your dry is to use a whisk. And that gets it all mixed up. And this recipe did not call for sifting, so I did not get my sifter out. But I do have one now. Because I had one ages ago and it became a kid's toy, so I gave up and threw it out. But my kids are older now, so they'll use it properly to sift stuff rather than squeeze the handle until it breaks.
I can confirm.
Yes. My kids had some strange things happen when they were young, let me tell you. Okay, well Logan can probably fill you in because this one, when he was 1.5 years, still in diapers, he covered himself in house paint. And he got upset with me because I wouldn't let him in the house. He was playing in the backyard and came back covered in house paint. I'm like, you know what? You did that to yourself. After I take a picture, I'm going to hose you off. Okay.
Well, house paint's a little better than Vaseline.
Oh my gosh. And
different child.
Yeah, Tyler, when he was about 2, he covered himself and his entire body in Vaseline and the bed. So you know what? You heard the expression, you know, trying to catch a greased pig, trying to catch a greased 2-year-old. You know, that was, you know, Lisa had some memorable escapades. Anyway, so one of us took the kid, one of us took the sheets and had to wash both of them in dish soap to get the grease out. All right, and for our liquid portion of this, it calls for 2 eggs. So I'm going to crack them into this bowl. Oh yeah, and then we also had a baby powder incident too. At the time we were living in a 2-story apartment.
Yeah.
You don't realize how much baby powder's in a 1-pound canister. Oh my gosh. When I came home from shopping, I thought that it was foggy in the house because there was powder from one end of the house to the other. You know, and my neighbor couldn't speak English, but he brought me a vacuum.
Hey, to my credit, they were quiet.
That's also how Maddie ended up with half of her head shorn off. No, they were quiet. They were playing well together. Yes, and one of our kids ended up bald. Thank you very much.
Hey, I wanted to be a barber.
All right. So we got 2 eggs, and we're going to mix that. And with it, we are going to mix milk, 1 cup of milk, and half a cup of oil. Alright, you know what? I give up with the apron. Alright. Y'all saw what it looked like when we started. Just use your imagination for the rest of the video. And then the one ingredient that kind of stands out for this one is a cup of boiling water. It makes for a very, very moist batter, which is very thin and wet, but it makes for a really good cupcake. Alright. So let me grab a spatula. Alright. Okay. You all can tell I'm not an Instagram poser because I'm real. Alright. So, now that we've got that done, we are going to put in the dry mix. So, and I'm notorious for forgetting to put vanilla and stuff, so let me just do that real quick. I just do 2 short glugs of vanilla. Just like a gram of whiskey, put in a couple glugs of vanilla. And then we are going to do the powdered ingredients. Got clouds of dust going around like the clouds of baby powder. And Dahlia is back. She knows I'm cooking, so she wants to come and see what's going on.
She's your biggest fan.
Yes.
Aside from us, of course.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is she can't eat chocolate, so...
Yeah, she can try, but she ain't going to get it. Almost there. I just gotta wait for the flour mixture to get incorporated before I add more. Or else it splashes and makes a big mess. I've already had enough big messes for the night. Oh, and one of the highlights was that I was getting the muffin papers out of the cabinet and knocked over a plastic container of peppercorns all over the counter. I mean, I like things spicy, but not when I'm trying to make a cake. Alright. Let's clear up some space here. Alright. Now this is a very liquidy batter.
Go over here.
Yep, I'm just making sure that all the little clumps of flour and dry goods are mixed in. Alright. So let me give it another little spin in the mixer, and then we will pour it into the muffin pans. Alright. So it's mixed for about 2 minutes on medium.
Yes, you can say welcome to our 3-ring circus.
Oh yeah. Okay, now the dog's got the zoomies. Alright. Well, you know what? I'm sure most people have pets and can relate. Alright. Life's not perfect, but it's our life. Alright. So the best way to measure out for muffins or cupcakes is to use a scoop.
No. Get up there.
Pardon the background noise.
Yep, we have a crazy dog in the background. And since this batter is so thin, I'm going to put it in the measuring pitcher to pour and see if that works better. Because that's the only challenge with this recipe, is that it is thin. And you want to fill your muffin papers about 1/2 to 2/3. You don't want to overfill them, because if you're going to be frosting a cupcake, you don't want to have it be, now comes the messy part. You don't want to have it overflow and make a really big top. Alright. This is actually working pretty well. Welcome to our crazy life. But you know what? There's too many fake people online. You're seeing genuine people and genuine family life. That's the kind of shows that I like to watch on YouTube. So I hope you all do too. Because we're real people.
We kind of hate to be fake.
With crazy pets. Alright, so let me move this one out of the way and get this one over here. I love how the muffin papers just collapse and go right into the little wells they're supposed to be in. So when you have a thicker batter, you can use a muffin scoop, a cookie scoop to make your muffins or cupcakes. But with this batter being so thin, it was just easier to use a measuring pitcher. Because the whole idea is to work smarter, not harder. If you can find something that works better, a little shortcut, you know what? Go for it. Because you're more apt to bake if it's not a pain in the butt. So that's how you can measure your batter relatively neatly, is to use this little pitcher. So I'm going to put a little bit more in these so I can round off the batter. Alright, a little bit more there. Alright, so now that I've made a complete mess of everything, let me grab a paper towel because I don't want to have little burnt bits on there because that's hard to clean off when it's done. Alright, so there's that. So So this way, it smells funny when it's baking and these little bits burn. Plus, it makes it hard to clean your muffin pan when you're all done with this whole process. So, anyway, these are going to bake at 350 degrees, which seems to be the gold standard for baked goods. And I've already got some carrot cake in the oven, and it's already at 350, so we're good to go there. So for cupcakes, it says 22 to 25 minutes. So we're going to do that. And I'm just going to call that good. So I'm going to put these in the oven. And then when they're done, we'll bring you back and show you what they look like. And then while they're cooling off, we'll make the frosting. And then when the frosting is ready, we'll put it on the cupcakes. Alright, looks like the carrot cake's almost done. Alright. So let me grab these. And whenever you make baked goods, you always need to start with your eggs and milk and that kind of stuff. Anything to go in it needs to be room temperature. Alright, move this over a teeny bit. Alright. Okay, so we're going to put that on for 22 minutes. Oop, went too far. Whoops. Kind of reminds me of Toy Story when they're trying to find the right channel. Got to go around the horn and go back. Alright, so we'll be back when these are done. So we'll see you soon. And the cupcakes baked for 22 minutes at 350 degrees. So we're going to set them out to cool on a cooling rack. So you can admire those. I'm going to grab the other pan.
Looks so good.
So. And I tried to keep them from crusting too much so that way they would make a nice flat surface for the frosting. So, shall we move on into the frosting?
Let's go move into the frosting.
Alright. So it calls for, I'm doubling the frosting just to make sure I have enough for all the cupcakes. So it calls for a total of 1 cup of melted butter. So I melted that on the stove.
Ooh.
So I'm going to pour that in the mixing bowl. Do this delicately so I don't burn myself. Alright, so there's our butter. And then, I don't know if you want to come up on my left side, it might be easier to see. The next thing we're going to do is we mix in the cocoa with the butter. So, I'm going to do this very carefully so it doesn't kick back and make a big mess. This is 1 1/3 cups of cocoa because I am doubling the frosting. And then we add alternately the powdered sugar and the milk. So, and then it also calls for the vanilla. So I'm going to add in the vanilla, 2 teaspoons, just 2 quick glugs. That's an official word, glugs.
Glug. Okay.
Yeah. Alright. So you can get a better look. Let me shake off the beater here. You can get a better look at the thick paste that's made with the cocoa. That makes a very, very rich base for this. So let me grab a scraper, and it's very important to scrape down the sides of your mixing bowl. Make sure it all gets incorporated. Alright. So, got that. And let me just mix that up real quick. Get in there and take a look as it's mixing. Alright. And our next step is to add powdered sugar alternately with the milk. We have 2/3 cup of milk, and the powdered sugar is to just the consistency for spreading. It probably will be about 6 cups is my guess. So let me loosen this powdered sugar. It gets a little compacted when it's sitting in the cabinet. So we're going to pour the milk, a little bit of milk in. Here, I can move the mixer a little bit there. And then I'm going to put in a little bit of flour. Powdered sugar.
Powdered sugar.
My brain's tired. Alright. But tonight's my catch-up night on my baking. My friends at work know how much I bake, and they love my bake stuff, so when we have parties and such, I usually bring the sweet treat.
How much powdered sugar did you put in there?
Oh, this measuring thing is about 1/4 cup, so I think 2, so 1/2 cup so far.
Yep.
Basically, you go by the measure of the milk, 2/3 cup, and then you put that in alternately with the flour. The baking powder. See?
So, baking.
You're gonna have to.
Sugar.
Yes, you're gonna have
powdered sugar.
You're gonna have to back out of all of that. So anyway, the powdered sugar. So it's just to consistency. So you go by the measure of the milk, and it didn't specify the exact measure of powdered sugar. But my estimate based on previous recipes would be about 6 cups total. And you mix that alternately with the milk. I'm going to beat that a little bit. It looks a little grainy, but that's just how it's starting out. Because we're going to whip it and whip it good till it gets to be a good spreading consistency. Let me turn that down. When you're adding dry ingredients to a mixer, you always want to do it on a low speed. And anybody know why that is?
So it won't go all over the place.
Right. And we're going to add a little bit more milk. And then we're going to add more powdered sugar. And basically you're just building it up until it's spreading consistency. And for this one, I can either pipe it onto the cupcakes or use a Ziploc bag and just snip off the corner. Because that's a quick way to pipe frosting onto cupcakes. Getting it to combine. Alright, a little bit more milk. This takes time to get it to the right consistency. But I don't like canned frosting, so I always make my own frosting. It's kind of like I don't like margarine, I prefer butter. And whenever you all buy bags of flour and powdered sugar and such, always look on the backs of the wrappers because they often have some good recipes. This one has blackberry French macarons on it, which may come into a future episode.
Ooh.
So I'm going to put that in my powdered sugar bucket, or canister. It's always good to store your baking ingredients in airtight containers, so that way they don't get hard or clumpy. It just protects their integrity.
And you're alternating the speeds of it too, or?
Yeah, once while you're adding, you need to have it on low, but but you can bring up the speed once it gets incorporated. I'm just trying to whip it to see where it's at as far as the consistency. It's looking good. I just think I need a little bit more powdered sugar. But this is the most chocolatey chocolate frosting you'll have ever tasted. And another good combination is to make a chocolate cake with peanut butter frosting.
Ooh.
We've done that for our birthday in our household. Because peanut butter and chocolate are a classic combination.
Smells so good.
Yeah, it's very, very, very chocolate. That'll probably be it for the powdered sugar, but again, a good guesstimate for your powdered sugar would be about 6 cups. But again,
6 cups, wow.
yeah, because powdered sugar kind of melts in the recipe. But again, you're alternating the 2/3 cup milk with the powdered sugar, and you're just going for the consistency. And you just add powdered sugar, alternate with the milk, until you get to the right consistency. So, and I'm thinking that's probably good. Let me go ahead and drop it down and look at the consistency here. We might need to add a little bit rest of the milk, but so you're looking at a very chocolate frosting.
Wow.
So let me just scrape down the bowl and make sure it's a spreadable consistency. And that looks absolutely delicious, so.
Sure does.
Yeah. Ugh. It's very, very thick. There's a fine line between making it thick enough to stand up for itself on the cake and not melt. So you want to go for, this is kind of like a soft fudge consistency.
Ooh.
I know, soft fudge, that may not sound the most appealing, but that's the best way I can describe it. Like fudge before it sets.
Uh-huh.
So, that's our frosting. So, why don't you guys hold on for just a minute and I'll put it in a frosting thing and show you what it looks like on the cupcakes. Alright, now that our frosting is ready, what I did is I put it in a gallon-size freezer bag, basically because the freezer bags are thicker than the storage bags. And then what I'm going to do is snip off the corner of the bag, and that's kind of a makeshift frosting tip.
Oh.
So that way you don't have to have a fancy frosting tip to make a pretty cupcake. We're just going to go around and around and go in circles. And yes, I know this is probably going to look like a certain emoji, but
That looks good to me.
yeah. I'll put sprinkles on it so it'll look better.
So I mean, you don't have any fear of the bag ripping open or anything else?
Well, the thickness, Talia, stop. The thickness of the bag, it's thick enough to withstand it. So, that's pretty much what you're going to do to the cupcakes. And then we can put some sprinkles on them to show you what the sprinkles look like.
Ooh, sprinkles.
Yeah, sprinkles.
Make sure you get the sprinkles and not the pepper.
Yeah. I'm going to use some leftover Valentine sprinkles because they're pink and they're pretty colors. So again, it doesn't have to be fancy, just do your best. There, now you've got a lovely chocolate cake because we don't want the emoji to stand out too much. But it's fabulous, yummy chocolate frosting, so.
And for all those days where you're stressed out, you got frosting to eat.
Yes, that's why I made a double batch. To make sure we had enough for the cupcakes. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and finish up the cupcakes, but this way you can see how beautiful the frosting turned out and how easy it is to improvise a piping bag with a Ziploc bag. So anyway, please like and subscribe and share to your friends, and join us again soon.
Thank you for watching Miss Cindy's Kitchen. To get more recipes like this one, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications when new videos are uploaded. Share it out to your friends, family, and neighbors, and leave us a comment to let us know how this recipe worked for you. And don't forget to hit that like button. Again, thank you for watching Miss Cindy's Kitchen.